Briterion Bollection is back, bitches.
Hey, I don't think this word is appropriate considering what we will be covering today.
Maybe you're right, but you know, uh, this is our style, so we got.
Well, your style,
Okay,
never mind.
it's my style. Okay, and I'm sticking to it despite the content of the film and
I-
genre of the film.
I just feel like it's a little boastful,
Well,
at least in my experience.
I'll try to cut back on saying that.
Yes. And speaking of obnoxious, I may sound like that more than usual because this guy said that recently my audio has been bad, at least on my end. So you can probably hardly hear me, so I'm really trying to be louder.
Yeah. Well, thanks for doing that.
Well, I'm trying.
I appreciate it. I think the fans, the audience will appreciate it as well. So today we're doing a movie that is having its 30th anniversary this year, and I think just recently, like officially, it was like 30 years to the day it was released. Um, there's been a lot of buzz kind of around this movie lately because of the anniversary, and I guess because of the anniversary, they released a documentary, which we saw about this film,
Yes.
and I kind of want to talk about it, even though I almost kind of want to avoid it because I feel like it's a trend now to like talk about it in a way.
Yes, and it's very annoying, but it's still something that we like.
Is near and dear to our hearts.
Yes.
Yeah. So the film we're talking about today is a Goofy movie. The cartoon VHS classic from '95, directed by Kevin Lima, who I guess went on to do some other stuff. He did.
You know what? I don't think I ever really looked into it.
I mean, I know he worked on other Disney stuff. As far as he directed Enchanted. So that's the one with Amy Adams, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Amy Adams, the first one, because I think they did a sequel to it.
Mm-hmm.
He directed Eloise at Christmas Time.
Mm-hmm.
He directed 102 Dalmatians, and I guess he directed Tarzan.
Oh, that was
Yeah,
him too.
yeah, that was him too.
I don't think I ever really looked into who directed it, but it's nice to know now.
Yeah, I mean, are you a big Tarzan fan?
I mean, I was never a huge fan, but I did watch it in the movie. Well, I watched it at the drive-in too, to be more specific, and I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I haven't seen the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh,
it was kind of after my time. You know what I'm
Well,
saying? Like
yeah, I guess it could
that
say.
came out in '99, and I was watching American Pie at that time. You know what I'm saying?
Which is very inappropriate for someone who was still a minor at the time. Hey, believe it or not, I was way more innocent than you would think.
Yeah, you were, but you're a few years younger than me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but a lot of the kids around my age were already being pretty gross around that time.
I'm sure they were. I mean, I don't know if that had anything to do with their movie taste, but they were just gross in general.
No, but it did. Because a lot of kids my age at the time were already watching South Park, so
Yeah.
that tells you everything.
Well, I mean, South Park got pretty damn big, and kids want to keep up with the Joneses. You know what I'm saying? That's why.
I wasn't I wasn't
Yeah,
just like
you're an outlier. You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
I still am to this day for those who know me well.
Yeah, exactly. I think, well, yeah, me and you are outliers in different ways, I think. You know what I'm saying?
You can say that.
Yeah, so I wasn't a big Tarzan guy, but I was a big Goofy movie guy. And, at the time, I thought I was the only person who loved this damn movie. I didn't hear other people mentioning.
Yeah, I never did either. That's
Yeah.
why I thought I was the only weird one who liked it too.
Yeah. So, it really stems from, so Goofy is my favorite, like, Disney character.
Yeah, he's definitely one of my top Disney characters.
Yeah. He's my favorite of the classic, of the Mickey and Friends.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
same
He's my
here.
favorite character.
Yeah, same here.
And mainly because of this film, but not just because of this film. So made me even want to see this film was because I was a fan of Goof Troop.
Oh yeah,
So the show,
I used to watch Goof
yeah.
Troop too.
So I hear a lot of people opine about the film, the Goofy movie, but I don't hear people talk about the show very often.
Yeah.
So I would watch the show a lot every day. You know what I'm saying? Like I would watch it when I came home from school in
Mhm.
elementary
Mhm.
school, third, fourth, fifth grade.
Yeah.
That's when I would watch it.
Mhm.
Um,
For me, it was like first, second grade.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, because you're a few years younger, like I said. So that's I would watch Goof Troop, and I really liked the show. And then I would still watch it even in sixth, seventh grade because that by that time they showed it in syndication in the morning. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So before school, and I used to start middle school later for whatever reason. I started middle school like at 9:30 or something.
That's really late
Yeah,
because I still started middle school at 8 o'clock.
yeah. We had a weird schedule for some reason. We started like at 9 or 9:30
So,
or something.
so that's Parkway Middle for you, right?
Yeah, Parkway Middle School, La Mesa, California. Very white area at the time.
I mean, I can still see it being mostly white,
I feel like it's not as white though.
but it still
Yeah,
has a large white
yeah,
population.
I'm sure, but you get a lot of people from all over now. You know, it's more mixed. Um, some by design, some by choice.
I suppose.
Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, that's where I went to middle school, and then yeah, was like I guess when I was in seventh grade. No, I guess it was sixth grade because if it was 95, so I graduated fifth grade 90.
Oh,
So that was the 94-95
yeah.
school year,
Mhm.
and that was at Northmont Elementary, also in La Mesa,
Mhm.
California. And then the next, like the natural progression, would have been, where all those kids were going to go was basically they were going to go to Parkway Middle School.
Mhm.
So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll go there too. And I actually had an option. Well, somewhat. Um, so my teacher in fifth grade, her name is Miss H. I'll call her.
Okay.
And she could be a biatch.
See, he loves this word as if, in case you guys haven't noticed.
She could be a bitch, but she could be cool too. So the thing is, she was pretty harsh and strict. Like if you pissed her off, she'd yell at you in 2 seconds. Um, but on the other hand, if you were like creative and like behaving,
Yeah.
she would praise you a lot. Like she really loved kids who were creative, and I was one of the creative kids. Like I was really good at drawing, and I was really even from a young age I've had a deep appreciation for art and stuff like that. So I really liked her class because that's what she was into. She was into art, and she was into like Egyptology and Greek mythology and shit like that. So she would show us slides. Nowadays it would be the hell happened to you? Nowadays it would be a PowerPoint, you know, but back then she showed us slides. She would click the thing and we'd see different pictures, and some were ones that she took, and the others were ones that she found, I guess, and she put together the slideshow, with the circular, Rolodex Kodak
Yeah.
thing, with the, connected to the projector or
Yeah.
whatever, and she would show that to us like a lot, almost every day. She would show us, okay, this is like what I saw in Egypt, this is what I saw in Greece, and I loved it. I was like, oh, this is the shit. I love that, and that's why I still love. That's why history was always my favorite subject, and that's why I really like, mythology, Greek, Egyptian, Roman mythology and stuff like that, because she
Yeah.
would show
She
us
she
shit.
really was an influence on you then.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
because she would show us that, and to me, it was like movies seeing that stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like that's why history was always my favorite subject, even more than English. I suck ass at math. I suck ass at science.
Well, we can't expect you to be great at every subject.
Exactly.
For everybody,
Exactly.
really.
Yeah, but I don't get why people are like, "Oh, you could be good at math. You're just too lazy or something." And I'm like, "No, I fucking suck
I
ass
mean,
at."
no, that's why we're all good at different things,
Exactly.
or else we would all have the same profession, and that would be very hurtful to our society.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's math and science is not my strong suit, even though I wish I was good at those things. I'm not, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I gravitated towards English and especially history even
Hmm.
more so, because you don't have to worry about grammar and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Even though I'm a good speller, um,
Yeah.
I don't like the rigid rules of correct like
Yeah.
grammar and shit like that.
Well, especially I would say in English that gets very complicated.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I really liked history, and she helped like develop a love for that. I was already kind of leaning that way because I really like comic books. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I mean, drawing I would say is like my God-given gift, quote unquote. Like I was really good at drawing, um, and I wasn't great like from the beginning. Like even my older sister, Denise, if you listen to our podcast, Brett Cetera, where
Yes.
we talk about ditching school in the 90s, she would say, "Oh, I remember you started drawing and you sucked at first. Like, I would draw little Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I would draw them on skateboards. I would try drawing like Bart Simpson, and I wasn't very good.
Hmm.
But over time I kept like practicing and I got better.
Well, it's all about practice, and nobody starts great at anything.
Yeah.
Just know that.
Yeah, and I was little, but I'm just saying it's not like I was a prodigy right when I grabbed the pencil and I was drawing like crazy shit. No, I sucked at first, but little by little I got better. So that was like my God-given gift, quote unquote. I'm not that religious. I just want to call it that. Like I feel like everyone is given a gift, you know what I'm saying? Um
Well, your cussing and you mentioning that goes hand in hand. So,
yeah. So like everyone is kind of given a gift at something. I mean, Aileen, you're pretty good at drawing, honestly. So,
well, thank you, but I feel like I can still do better.
yeah, I mean, I guess there's always room for improvement, but yeah, I was pretty good at drawing, and Miss H, my fifth grade teacher, she would see that and be like, "Oh, wow, you can really draw, like you're really good," and also like when we would do, she would have us do like pop-up books and like pop-up cards, and I would always do the shit ones, like mine's were the shit, like I would do the best fucking ones. I remember this one dude came. He was one of our students' uncles. He was this Australian dude, and
Hmm.
he was her uncle. And she invited him to speak to the class because he was like a park ranger or something. He was almost like Steve Irwin. He was like talking to the class like he's like, "All right, mates." He's like, "I'll teach you about the forest." And he was like telling the whole class. It was cool though. When we had guest speakers and they were engaging, it was interesting. You know what I'm saying? Not guest speakers who were boring. I didn't give a shit about that. But
Well, I mean, I'm sure that she got the ones that would be engaging. So,
yeah.
so.
Well, I mean, just so happened because I said, he was the uncle of one of the chicks in the class, and I remember afterwards she was like, "All right, do thank you cards for this guy who came. I forgot what his name was.
Yeah.
But let's do thank you cards." So I did a thank you card, and my thank you card was the shit because it was a pop up card, and I wrote like thank you for visiting us, blah blah blah, and
Uh-huh.
I drew a kangaroo, so I put the kangaroo on the front part or whatever, and then the background was I drew Australia, so it was like the kangaroo was like in front, and then
So
you
it
could
was
see
just like,
Australia in the background or
uh,
whatever. Yeah, so when you open it up, you see a kangaroo in Australia, and that was the shit. To this day, that's like the best pop up card ever created. So,
I would
anyways,
have liked to see
yeah,
that.
maybe I'll recreate it.
Okay, so
So.
let's get back into the movie. I can't. I just noticed. We just went on a tangent.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a reason for this. So, like I said, in school I was really good at drawing, and so that teacher she ended up sending some letters home, and I guess I didn't realize it at the time. I didn't realize it was from her, but now
Hmm.
looking back, it makes sense. So she sent letters home to my dad, and he was like, "Oh, I got this letter for you," and it's saying something like, "Go to this like." They want you to go to this art school or something like that.
Okay.
And he was like, do you want to do that? And at the time, I was kind of like, I kind of, that would be cool, but I didn't want to be separate from my friends. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Not that I had a lot, but the ones that I had, I wanted to stick with
Yeah,
them.
you
You know
were
what I'm
pretty
saying?
close with them.
Yeah. So I was like, that would be cool. But even then, when you're a kid, you don't know what's good for you. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? it would be the parents' decision, kind of, like. But I think because maybe I could have gotten some scholarship, but I'm sure my dad would have to pay some shit for that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, there's usually a catch to
Yeah,
everything.
I'm sure
So
my parents would have had to pay, and then if that was the case, then I couldn't have gone there because my dad wouldn't have wanted to pay that compared to a free school. You know what I'm saying? So that's the twists that happen in life. You know what I'm saying? So had I gone to this art school, you might be um, looking at a different person. I might have a totally different life if I had gone there. You know what I'm
mhm.
saying? But instead, I went to Parkway Middle School, and I just became another jackass like all these other kids. So no fancy art school, no strokes lifestyle sort of thing. I just became another jackass in the system, and maybe that's a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Things are meant to be, I guess. Like
Mhm.
life unfolds as it should. To quote Harold and Kumar, like who knows what would have happened, but I know that the time I spent, especially sixth grade, that was probably the funniest time of my life. Hanging out with my friend Eddie, Sean, and the other like dumbasses in the class. Like that was
Oh,
like the
well,
funniest shit
that's
ever.
not nice to say about your friends, but
Well, I mean, those two guys were my friends. The other guys were kind of dumbasses who I
wow.
was acquaintances with. I wasn't like super close with them or anything like that.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, that was like arguably the funnest time of my childhood in a way. And then when I wasn't hanging out with them, I was hanging out with my cousin Junior, and we would laugh our asses off at different stuff. So that was a hella humorous time in my life. And then you know. Uh, so yeah, sixth grade, 95, 96. I guess this movie came out so April 95 it
Mhm.
come out. Like it
Yeah.
came out. And I didn't really think much about it. I think it came out, and I think my mom bought the VHS of it. I didn't see it
Mhm.
in the theater. I don't recall seeing it in the theater. My mom bought the VHS mainly for my little sisters, I think. You know what I'm saying? But they
Mhm.
were, it was, they were born 93. So
Mhm.
when this comes out, they're like 2 years old, and I don't know how really self aware they are of it. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So if anything, I end up watching it more. You know what I'm saying? I would put it on for them maybe as entertainment, but then I would sit around and watch it and be like, this is funny. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I'm like, oh, this movie's pretty good. Like it's a lot funnier than I
Yeah.
realized it would be. And and kind of by that time I was like in middle school trying to like be more of an adult. But this movie, like I had to stick around and watch it. Like similar to like Space Jam, like the year
Mhm.
later. You know what I'm saying? It was like we were trying to be more, young adults. Like we were trying to be more grown up, but then these like really good cartoons came out that brought us back to our youth. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
it was like, oh, like it's like we want to hang out with these dudes and do stupid crap, but then we also like like a cartoon like Goofy movie comes out, and you're like, oh, this is great. This is hilarious. So I that's how I really got into it. I was watching the VHS mainly for my little sisters, but I just kept watching it and I just kept putting it on every day after school. Yeah, like I would come home and I would often like watch my little sisters a lot when I came home from school, and like they had kind of a maid slash babysitter, a lot of the time during the day. But when I came home, that lady, she would leave, and I would stay there with my sisters till my mom came home,
Mhm.
and and then I would put that on for them, hoping to entertain them, and I end up getting more entertainment from it, So that's how
Yeah.
I really latched onto the film, and I loved it, even though I kind of forgot about it after a while. You grow up and you experience new things, and I started getting into other films. You know what I'm saying? Um, how did you first see this?
Well, it's interesting that you bring it up because just like you, I also would watch Goof Troop. Because I lived with my grandmother. That was the one way that I had cable access.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's how I would watch it. But then the way that I ended up watching a Goofy movie was that I was at a family gathering. It was like one of the kids in the family had a birthday party, and at one point it was like later on in the evening when the party was wrapping up, and I guess they figured, how can we get these kids to sit down while we start, guess, breaking down the party.
Right.
So then they thought, oh well, I guess one of the moms had bought the Goofy movie VHS, and she thought, oh, let's play them this movie. And I didn't even know about it. I didn't even hear that it had just come out or anything.
Mm.
So then, we all kids like were sitting in the living room watching it. But by the end, I was really impressed. I was like, this is really good. And I thought maybe something bigger would have come out of it. But then after that, I didn't hear much. I was just kind of like, and I thought maybe a lot of my classmates would talk about it, but not really. I was the one who would try to tell other kids, and they were just kind of like, yeah, whatever, we don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, hey, if I'm the only one who likes it, at least I can appreciate, at least I can be the only one around me that can appreciate this little gem of a movie. But then, time passed, and even I kind of forgot about it. And then there were times where I would occasionally watch it if they were playing it on TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then
like if they played it on Disney Channel or something like that randomly.
Yeah.
Or in syndication or something like that.
Yeah, that's how I would watch it too. So then I remember that the one time that I felt like I really reconnected, or like, really, what's the word?
Rediscovered it?
Yeah, I rediscovered it was when that one time that we were riding back home from Coachella. And
speaking of which, like Coachella's going on right now.
Weekend 2 is going on around right now. So
it's Coachella 2011, right? We were driving back.
Was it 2011 or was it 2010? I don't remember.
No, I don't remember. I
think it was 2011.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought.
That I'm thinking about it.
Because I remember I had these gray pants that I was wearing, and I had a bloody nose, and I got some blood on my pants.
Oh,
and I remember
true.
that was that.
No, I remember.
That had to be that year.
So then I remember that we were probably about halfway home when we were talking about animation and movies we liked as kids. And one of us, I don't remember who mentioned it first, but one of us mentioned a Goofy movie. And, it's like we mentioned it, but then the other one was like, oh yeah, I really like that movie too. And we just really didn't shut up about it for the rest of the ride.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we kept going on and on. And that's the thing. I really, I don't know. I didn't look up on the internet. I didn't look up YouTubers saying how much they love this movie, or I didn't do much research on it. I mean,
even at the time, I didn't hear anybody talk about it.
Yeah, that just like wasn't a thing. I mean, at least me growing up in the, late 90s when the internet came, when AOL came and it was horrible, like, I'm saying, you didn't look up shit that easily because it wasn't that easy. You know what I'm saying? It was hard first off to get an internet connection, and then second off, it's like, okay, what do I do now that I have it? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, if you like Napster came out, it's like, okay, now I'm downloading music and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it just depended on the time of your life. You know what I'm saying? Like, because people can look back now they're like all nostalgic for it.
Yeah.
And especially people who are even younger than us, like, they watch it and they're like, oh my god, this is so good, or whatever. And it's like, when you really think about it, well, let me break this down for you. So this is actually something Byron has talked about really well, and he actually made a really good point about this. And so I want to share that with you guys today. So me and Byron and others were born in the year of Eric Blair. Do you know what that means?
Eric Blair.
Yeah. So you'll have to do research as to why I call it that.
Well, I'll do it right now. Google.
So we're born kind of at the perfect time, which is 1984. Obviously, you've heard that term before. You've heard the book. It's an ominous year, but if you look in pop culture at that time, it was very
Mhm.
very big. The things that were big at that time. Michael Jackson, who's the biggest star of all time, Madonna, Prince. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? All these guys were huge at that time.
Yes, they were. Wait, now that I'm looking this up,
Yeah.
okay, can I spoil it?
No. No.
Okay, all right, I won't.
people
Okay,
people
I
who listen will have to.
will have to
Yeah,
look it up
yeah,
themselves.
yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
I won't say anything.
Okay, but you found out why, right?
Yes,
Okay,
I
so
did.
so that's why I call it the year of Eric Blair. So but do you like that? Do you like how I call it that? Because there's like
It's
a
interesting.
level. There's like it's not that easy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like a little bit removed. So
Okay,
I like I said,
I get it.
so me and him were born that same year. And what's funny, it's funny that we're friends because we didn't go to school together. We met after the fact. We met at working at Target. So, but the fact that we're still from the same year is interesting. Usually you
Yeah.
meet people and they're not the same year. They're a year older, they're a year younger, you know what I'm saying? And then we met and you're from a couple years after. You're from from 87, right? So you're basically the same generation though. You know what I'm saying? You're a millennial like me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, which we get a bad rep.
yeah, which I don't know why, because we carry everything. Anyways, yeah, we're like I said, Byron has said this, so me and him, and us in particular, but people who were born a few years before, or a few years after, too, are in the same sort of boat. We were born at the perfect time because when you see this in films at that time, it just coincided with our age range. And even Ben Simmons from The Ringer has said this before too, but he doesn't get it because he's older. He said he's like, oh, he's like, when you look at the '80s, there's this like huge burst of like teen movies, and then and then that kind of kept going, and then he mentions like, oh, in the '90s there was all these like kid movies and stuff like that, and then he says, oh, in the late '90s there was all these like teen and college movies or whatever. He says that and he doesn't get it. He tries to like backwards rationalize it. But here's the thing: me and Byron being from '84, when we saw films, what was cool is that we grew up with the characters. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So when we were kids, what was out at that time? Uh, Film wise, there was Sandlot,
Yeah.
Little Giants, the Mighty Ducks
Yeah.
films, which to me D2 is the best.
It's the
That movie's
best
the
one.
shit.
Yes.
And we're gonna talk about that movie sometime. What else? What other kids movies from the early mid '90s
From early mid 90s. I'm trying to think.
that have like kid protagonists? I mean, like Rookie of the Year or whatever was at that time.
Yeah.
And that's funny because that same kid ended up being in a movie that I'm gonna mention right now. So like as we got older, like the characters in the films also got older. So
Hmm.
by the time so when like middle school came out, like when we were in middle school, then we start seeing like Angus or whatever. You remember that film, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Which that movie is very hard to find nowadays, and I've been
Yeah.
wanting to watch
It's
it.
hella hard to find. I saw it on Tubi like a year ago or whatever, but it
Yeah,
was
but then
only
they
on.
removed
Yeah,
it.
yeah. It's limited time. But yeah, the movie's hella hard to find. Maybe we can talk about that. And watching it back, it was like, wow, this is like aged, weirdly, but
Yeah, but I still
no, no,
appreciate it.
I do like that film. And so, but that's the thing. So by the time we hit high school, what movies are coming out at that time? So American Pie,
Well, American Pie what came out. I think when I was
99.
in,
Yeah,
I was in. It was like
that's what I'm saying.
sixth
But
or
I was in
fifth.
high school. I was that was my freshman year when that came out. You know what
It's
I'm saying?
weird to think that you were already that far ahead.
Yeah, I know, right? I know that's weird, right? But like, yeah. So then that was all these teen movies at that time. What was it? I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, American Pie, all those other movies that were trying to copy American Pie. You know what I'm saying? Like She's All That, Say the Last Dance, 10 Things I Hate About You. So, like, what I'm basically trying to say is we came out around at the perfect time because when we were kids, we were seeing kid films, and by the time we were in high school, these kid films, they were high school movies, you know what I'm saying? And they
Yes.
were more edgy. Varsity Blues, All these came out at that time when we were in high school. So that was our generation that we were seeing on film. Every year we grew up with the films, and it just so happened that we came around at the perfect time for that. And it just was just a sweet spot that, me, Byron, you got to live through. You know what I'm saying? And then that died down after. Like when we graduated, when me and Brian graduated in 2002, that's when those movies started fading out. You know what I'm saying? Like you stopped seeing those by that time. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, you saw a few, but like that's what was cool is that those characters, like you age with the characters. That's what's funny. So that kid from Rookie of the Year, he ended up being an American Pie. That guy, you know what I'm saying? So as a kid, we could relate to him, and then we related to him later when he's like trying to get laid. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like so like that's and then first off, I love American Pie. I think the first three were the shit, and that's the thing.
Tasteless.
Yeah, and what was funny is I know on rewatchables they did American Pie 1. They did the first one, and they're like, "Ooh, this aged horribly." They're like really dissing it and stuff like that. And I was like, "Aged horribly? Like this is the best one of the trilogy."
I'm not a big fan of the rewatchables, but in that sense, I would have to agree with them. Just because I'm like, ew.
Well, here's the thing: if they think the first one aged horribly, then they shouldn't even watch the rest because the rest are even worse. So like American Pie 1 is the best movie of the trilogy. It's the best. I mean, I know it's more than a trilogy, but it's the best movie. Like the Whites brothers, like they're the ones who have the most chops as directors, even though that was probably like their first movie, but like you could see that they had talent from that. So best story and movie was the first one, but the funnier ones are part 2 and part 3. And I plan on talking about part 2, maybe with Byron, because Byron's a big
Yeah, I don't think I can get involved with it.
Byron's a big part 2 fan, and maybe part 3 I'll do with Chris. But anyways, we got to grow up with these characters, so it was like high school, and then when American Pie 2 came out, they were in college. You know what I'm saying? That was like 2002 or 2001. So it's like we got to these, kind of grow up with these characters. So we came around at that time, and when you really analyze it, what grade was Max in Goofy Movie?
I think he was supposed to be in ninth grade because he's speculated to be about 14 years old.
Yeah, exactly. So he's like in high school, and
yeah,
we're like a bit behind that, but that was on the horizon. We're like, oh yeah, like that's what high school's gonna be like, when we get there. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, like it's not like I'm hearing a lot of people like praising it now, but it's something that we both have really liked for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And like society is just catching up with Goofy Movie. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not a big Atlanta fan. They did something about Goofy Movie where they did like a mockumentary or something. Cause so like this film has a lot of like African American fans to it. I guess just they kind of see it as an African American type of story and type of characters, and I guess the music having Tevin Campbell.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which I love Tevin Campbell. I mean, his songs were great. Like,
yeah.
And I like that they got him for this film. And he wasn't the biggest star. He was even kind of fading out by that time. By the time they did Goofy Movie, his like hits had kind of dried up. But I was always a big fan of him. So why I think this movie works so well is because they did a snapshot of that time. They were like, okay, this is an animated movie, but let's do a coming of age movie from this time, from the 90s, you know what I'm saying? And because they did that and they didn't like copy shit that came before, copy shots, copy things word for word, like that's what makes this film work, I think, like, because like I've said before, nowadays you see music videos and they're stealing from other movies that we've seen a million times, you know what I'm saying? Like, everything you see is just they just keep stealing it. They can't come up with anything original. You know what I'm saying? And it's annoying.
It is. It really is.
So I think that's what made Goofy Movie work so well is because they were just doing a snapshot of that time, of that point in time, being a kid in high school in the mid 90s. And so they used music from that time period. They showed fashion from that time period because you see they have baggy clothes. You know what I'm saying? They had Pauly Shore, who's from that time period. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, from that time period.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, they weren't trying to do some like retro Wes Anderson shit or something like that. You know what I'm saying? It was like, this is the 90s and we want to take a snapshot of it. And I think at the time people thought that was cheesy, the mainstream. That's why it wasn't a hit. But over time, now that the 90s is getting a lot more appreciation over time, people are looking back, and Gen Z and shit are looking at that. They're like, oh shit, this was the shit. There's a movie that's, Disney movie, yet it's like so 90s, like it has that 90s aesthetic. You know what I'm saying? What other Disney movie from the 90s has that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
None. That's the only one I can think of. So that's why I think you're seeing a lot of appreciation for it. So, I guess we can talk about the movie, the nuts and bolts of the movie, I guess.
Yes, finally. Because I've been wanting to do this.
Well, I mean, I go into that stuff because I feel like it's important. And if anything, I think that's what people want to hear about. They want to hear about your personal connection to the movie and, the zeitgeist, like your perspective of the zeitgeist at that time. You know what I'm saying? Because the movie is the movie. Like, there's only so many ways you can analyze the.
No,
You know what I'm saying?
that's a good point.
So that's why I throw that in, even if you think that's off topic. But
I just realized that it took us about how long to get to this point?
like over a half an hour, but
Okay.
that's okay. Well, we might not go through everything in the actual movie, just the things that we appreciate it. So let me do the Wikipedia description.
Sure.
So Max Goof is an average teenager who pines after his classmate Roxanne, worships the pop star Powerline, and has a tense relationship with his clumsy, old-fashioned father Goofy, whom he fears may end up taking after when he grows up. On the last day of school before summer vacation, Max, with help from his friends PJ and Bobby, hijacks a school assembly and dances while lip-syncing to a Powerline song. The performance succeeds in making Max a school celebrity, and he invites Roxanne with him to a viewing party of a live broadcast of Powerline's upcoming concert in Los Angeles. Yeah. And so how does this film start off? We see it's a dream sequence, right? Like we see like a cornfield or whatever.
Yeah, it's like like a corn, you can say that it's like a dry grass field.
Yeah,
basically.
Yeah, and like the animation looks really nice. Like it looks really pristine.
Yeah, for the time,
Yeah.
I thought that was really good.
Yeah, it looks really good. Yeah, and you see Max there, and like Roxanne is with him, right?
Well, yeah. Well, she like flies, quote unquote, towards him.
Yeah, and you can already get a feel that this must be some sort of fantasy sequence coming up. You know what I'm saying? And they're chilling in the cornfield,
like kind of getting flirty with each
other.
other.
Yeah, kind of flirty, and she's like on top of him or something like that.
No, she's sitting next to him, but then you could tell that she starts leaning towards him for to kiss him.
Yeah.
But then she suddenly freaks out.
Yeah, and then we see Max, and he's freaking out, right? He's like, "Oh, what's the matter?" And he like feels his teeth.
And his teeth get huge.
Yeah, they get huge, and he's like, "Oh, what's going on? What's up with my teeth?" And then he sees like his ears growing out, right?
And then he sees like other body parts growing out, like his arms, legs. He's all of a sudden starts getting gigantic.
Yeah, and then like the bump on his head like goes up or whatever,
which is something that his dad has.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, and it does kind of like a squeaky sound when it bumps up.
Yeah, it's like yeah.
Like
yeah, and then we see Roxanne freaking out, looking at this.
But she's very terrified.
Like the screen is like all dark by that time, right?
And then he has like that, and then all of a sudden he does that goofy chuckle.
Yeah.
And then
there's like a lightning.
And you could tell that this was a nightmare.
Yeah.
And
he gets up out of bed in a cold sweat, and he's like feeling his face and feeling his body. He's like, "Oh my god, thank God, it was just a dream."
Yeah, like he just feels his face all around, and he's like, "Okay, it was just a dream. Nothing has happened to me."
Yeah, exactly. And then does Goofy walk in?
A second later, Goofy bursts in, and he practically tells him like, "All right, let's get up. It's time to go to school." Like, oh no, actually, I just remember before Goofy bursts in, he gets a call from PJ.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And he pretty much tells him like, "Hey, are you awake?" Like, and he's like, "You're supposed to have, you know, you're supposed to have been here already. Get
Yeah.
ready." And he's all freaking out. He's like, "Oh no!" Like, so then he suddenly just starts like putting on clothes, and
Yeah.
right as he was gonna leave his room, that's when Goofy bursts in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what does he tell him? He says like, "Oh, you don't want to be late for school."
Well, he tells him something like, "Good morning." But then he's like, "Dad, don't you knock?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he's like, "Oh, sorry." And then he closes the door, knocks, and then he just repeats what he had just initially said.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, when you hear that call from PJ, then you're like, okay, something's afoot. Like
Yeah.
they have something planned.
Yeah.
We don't know what yet at that time. And so does the first musical number start to kick in here?
It's right after he leaves the house.
Yeah.
So
He
Goofy
leaves the
hands.
house.
So Goofy hands Max his lunch, in the classic
Yeah.
brown paper bag.
Yeah.
And he tries to open the door to the white picket fence,
Mm-hmm.
but he doesn't manage, so he just jumps it over, and that's when the first music sequence starts.
Yeah. After today, right?
Yes, after today.
So that song is fire too. I mean, that's the thing. This movie has great songs.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
That's part of why I was really drawn to this movie.
Yeah, like the Powerline songs, obviously, but like I
mean, even though at the time, because my English wasn't very good, I didn't really understand them very well, but I thought they were really catchy.
Yeah, exactly. So
and only after the fact, I started understanding more, and I'm like, oh, so this is what they're saying, and pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess technically there's only like 5 songs on the whole soundtrack, but it feels like a musical. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, well, yeah.
Even though there's only 5 songs.
I mean, that is a characteristic of
Disney. Yeah. They're all kind of musicals, right? Yeah, but even this film, it doesn't feel like a super musical like these other films are. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And also, this wasn't one of their like prestige releases. This wasn't like a big summer release. I guess it was like some contractual obligation to release this movie or something like that. So it's like they didn't put their whole machine into it. You know what I'm saying? But the director and his crew were really passionate about it. So they were the ones who were really fighting for this film, as you can see in that documentary. So yeah, after today, and that's a funny song, right?
Yeah.
What does he say? He's like, "I'm gonna sit on my butt." The driver
the bus driver.
Yeah. And then you see, but that's the thing. You see, it's very '90s. You see like all the cliques and stuff like that. The nerds, the hot girls, the jocks. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, where does Max fit into that? And I think it's a great song, and I like how at the end, because everyone's all happy, Yeah, exactly. Like I like the line that I got 20 more minutes of home economics, down with the textbook, and up with the comic.
But you have to do it with a nerdy voice, because he sounded really nerdy.
Yeah, he was hella dirty. I love that. That's one of the best lines in the song. And then I like how the end, it twists it. He twists it. Max is alone, and he's like, I wish that this was the day after today. You know what I'm saying? Like, the whole song, everyone's like, after today, like, optimistic. You know what I'm saying? But now he's like, I just want this day to end, because
exactly.
he has like some pressure for this upcoming scene that's gonna come up, right?
Yeah.
So, speaking of the upcoming scene, like they're like, it's a school assembly, right?
Yeah.
And we can see PJ is backstage, and this Bobby character who's played by
he's voiced by Pauly Shore.
Yeah, Pauly Shore. So Pauly Shore was a fucking phenomenon at that time.
I don't get why. He was just an all-around dork.
Yeah, but he really capitalized on the little fame he had at that time. He was doing random ass movies, which a lot of people love to this day. People love fucking Son-in-Law.
Yeah, they do. Even people that I wouldn't expect to like it.
Yeah, even some hoity-toity people love Son-in-Law. Which I love that movie, but I don't expect random people to like that. He in the army now, I think, is underrated. Thought that was hilarious. I like Jury Duty. Thought that was funny. I actually saw I saw Jury Duty at the Vogue Theater, um, which was like a second run theater in Chula
Yes.
Vista, California. And that theater was the shit because you could pay $5 and see three movies that were like are out for a month already, but you got to stick around and see three movies all day. And we used to go there all the time.
Yeah, I don't think I ever went there, sadly.
No?
No,
Damn.
I wish I was taken there, but it was always really limited. It was
Yeah.
either the drive-in in Coronado. Very rarely, I think I got taken to other movie theaters. I think it was just like maybe other few random movie theaters around here, or it had to be in Tijuana, like the Cinepolis in Plaza Carrusel, or there was like a few other ones like in the Otay area, or the Cinepolis in Plaza Rio. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it had to be those.
Yeah. Well, I think the only movie I saw in TJ at that time was Flubber. That was the only movie I saw.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, no, Vogue Theater was the shit, and I remember my dad's ex-wife would take me there a lot because it was like I was on summer vacation, and she would have like days off, and well, my dad would be doing something else, and she's like, "Oh, you want to go to the movies with me?" And I'll be like, "Sure." So I'd go with her, and I remember one time we saw Son-in-Law, Babe, and Mortal Kombat.
That is so random.
Yeah, but think about that. If that happened nowadays, people would shit their pants and be like, "Yes, we got to go see that." Like if you did that in LA or whatever, at some Tarantino's theater or like the Frida Cinema or whatever, even at Digital Gym, if you did that, people would shit their pants and go and spend all day there. But yeah, that was just what it was like to go to the Vogue Theater in the 90s.
Interesting.
I just want to say shit their pants again.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyways, so yeah, and then so yeah, Pauly Shore, he was a fucking phenomenon at the time with your boy Stephen Baldwin.
The biggest Steven.
Yeah,
Well, in general, I'm not the biggest fan of that whole clan
right.
for a few different
Yeah,
reasons.
yeah. Not to mention fake Spanish wife.
Why would anybody do that?
I don't know.
And the fact that he goes on about it like nothing.
Yeah, I know. He's just like, oh yeah, like you guys don't know what you're talking about. I just want to tell him like, just get the hell out of here with your fake Spanish girlfriend.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, Pauly Shore plays Bobby, but he has that Pauly Shore, the weasel, whatever the hell his like his act was, or whatever. That's what he played himself playing that character in the film. So,
yeah.
That's where you get that. Oh, look, it's the Leaning Tower of Cheese. Because
he shoves it in his
yeah,
mouth.
because he really likes
like some cheese spray.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like some.
Which I always thought was gross.
I don't know. I had some friends, and and I'm not going to get into specifics about who who
Yeah.
liked it, but yeah, I tried it before, and I'm like, how can anybody like this?
Yeah.
And it was just so over processed, and
Yeah.
just it doesn't taste good, doesn't feel good in your mouth. No.
Doesn't feel good traveling through your body.
Okay, now this is getting TMI.
Yeah. Yeah, no, cheese in a can doesn't get more American than that, right? Anyway, so they're setting up backstage. They're like, okay, and Principal Mazer, voiced by Wallace Shawn, who was on a good run at the time, right? Because that year he had this and Clueless.
Yeah.
And then he already had some success in the 80s with My Dinner with Andre and Princess Bride. And so he was on a pretty good run this year. I mean, those are two classics in 1 year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Clueless, goofy movie. So he plays the principal, and he's kind of a hard ass guy. He's kind of Principal Skinner-esque, right?
Yeah, pretty dorky,
Yeah.
but yeah, pretty. But he rules with an iron fist.
Yeah, he's strict, right? Yeah. And then all of a sudden he's like, "Well, what the hell's going on here?" Like there's all this like smoke and shit like that, right?
In reality, he's all like, he's trying to, he's having this assembly.
Yeah.
To try to get the students to still learn even though they're about to go on
Yeah.
summer vacation.
Yeah.
So he suggests, how about science slumber parties?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the lights go off and
Yeah.
he's wondering like, whoa, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So is everybody else,
Yeah.
really. But then the music starts and then you can see it, a hole right under him opens and he just, he falls under it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then you see Max, he's dressed up in this ridiculous thing, this yellow.
Yeah, like yellow jumpsuit.
Yeah, and his hair, he has this
kind of zigzaggy. Yeah.
Father MC meets meets Grace Jones, meets meets what's his name? Big Daddy Kane-esque
Yeah.
hair. Yeah, I mean, and that kind of goes back to like New Jack City and New Jack Swing. Me and Chris were talking about on that film. Yeah, and then the music starts to kick in for the classic track "Stand Out," which could be the best song in the film. I think. You know what I'm saying?
It could be.
Yeah.
Though it's hard for me to decide which song I like the most. But yeah, that could probably be the best.
Right. Yeah. I really like the message of it. So then Max starts like lip syncing it, and the kids start going crazy, and Roxanne looks at him, and I guess they don't realize it's him. Like they think it's actually Powerline or whatever. Like because even though he's like a foot shorter than him or whatever, like but he's dancing, he's doing the moves, and they said he's supposed to be like a composite of like. Michael Jackson, Prince, and Bobby Brown, I guess, is what they're going for.
That's
but with Tevin Campbell's voice. And yeah, he does the song, and they're trying to set up. They had the smoke machine, kind of the ghetto rigged smoke machine that they set up, and then they hook him up
to like a carabiner.
Yeah, like they're trying to do some wire work with his ass, and they somehow pull it off. So then it's like, stand out, and then he's like flying over the crowd, and everyone's like, whoa! Like, because like the curtain goes down or whatever, but he goes up and he's flying across the crowd, you know what I'm saying? And, I love that song. That's the song that really, I feel like stuck with me the most. I mean, even though all the songs kind of did, but that song, stand out across the crowd, even if you gotta shout out loud. Till mine is the only face you'll see. Gonna stand out till you notice me. Like,
wow.
Like that's kind of the message as far as him. In his life, he wants to get Roxanne. You know what I'm saying? That's the main motivation for his life. In Goofy's life, his main motivation is connecting with his son. You know what I'm saying? So they have two different motivations, and they're just like at loggerheads, as the British would say. Like they have two opposing viewpoints. You know what I'm saying? But he's like flying across the crowd, and they're like, yeah, like PJ's like. Yeah, and then Bobby Pauly Shore is like, oh, dude, like, he's flying, bro. Like, he's, like, really into it. And, but before that, doesn't Stacy give a speech or whatever?
Yeah, that's the one part we skipped. Yeah, so Stacy, who is Roxanne's best friend.
Who was the chick who was on Blossom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, she was voiced by her.
Yeah, Jenna Von Oy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, I can't even talk about that show because nowadays I really can't stand Mayim Bialik, but that's for another day. But just look it up yourself and you'll, I don't know, just hearing about her, talking about her really leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah. So. I mean, not that she's that big of a star now, but I really liked Blossom back in the day, in the 90s.
I mean, most people nowadays know her because she was in Big Bang Theory.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. But that part, she's giving the speech, and then for some reason, the nerdy guy
so then
has this like black voice all of a sudden or whatever.
I don't know if I would say black, but even then his voice did not match to when they were singing.
I think they fucked up on that. I think that voice wasn't supposed to be with that guy. and like
Yeah.
somehow in the audio they're like, okay, just put that there or whatever. And,
I don't think they were thinking about it.
yeah, they don't
But
mention it in the documentary, so I think that was a fuck up or something. Um,
yeah, they were hoping people would forget about it.
I guess so. Were you gonna say something?
Oh yeah. So this is what he sounded like, and he's like, "Yo, Stacy, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me, baby."
Yeah, and for some reason it's like one of people's favorite parts of the movie. Like my cousin, she was like, "Oh, I love that." Like he's like, "Yo, Stacy, talk to me, talk to me, talk to me." It's like, why the hell's the nerdy kid saying that? Like it just didn't make any sense. It was almost like when I found out JC Chasez sings that part on Black, "Bring It All to Me" or whatever. Bring it on to me, whatever.
Okay.
Like I was like, at first I was like, I heard the song and I heard the singing and I liked it, and then my sister was like, "Oh, that's JC Chasez," and I was like, "That's not JC Chasez." Like he's singing about Tim's and baggy jeans. Like that's not JC Chasez. But then I started hearing it. I'm like, "Fuck, that is JC Chasez." Like sounds just like him. I was like, "Fuck." Like how and why? Like why is JC Chasez singing about Tim's and baggy jeans? That just didn't make any sense to me at all.
No.
Um, but anyways, yeah, that classic Stacy line. Um, yeah. So and then yeah, we see Max. He's flying through the air. He's really into it. We see he's like about to connect with Roxanne. He's like about to kiss her or something. And before I get into that, this is like I think as a kid when I saw this part, I was like, oh my god, this is so cheesy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It
yeah,
really
it was
is.
like I almost couldn't watch. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, oh, like it was. And actually that's the thing. Seeing this film because I was a big Saved by the Bell fan, at that
Mhm.
time. I mean, and
Yeah.
it already kind of died down. I think they did the college years that year or whatever, which I still
Yeah.
like. I love college years. They should have kept that going for as long as they could.
Yeah, but they were getting too old.
It's college.
Yeah, but I mean after college.
Yeah. No, I'm a big Saved by the Bell fan. So when you saw things like him singing this song, you're lip syncing, it reminded you of seeing Saved by the Bell when they would like perform and they would like kiss, and it was just like so embarrassing. It was like, oh my god, this is fucking cheesy. But that's the thing. I guess that's why I like Goofy movies so much because to me it had that same sort of vibe
Mhm.
as like Saved by the Bell. You know what I'm saying? You're seeing kids in high school navigating and pulling pranks and being cheesy, and it was in the 90s. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That was our golden era as kids. You know what I'm saying? Pre-internet, pre-smartphones. You know what I'm saying? And I actually looked this up randomly. I was like, let me look this up. Let me Google this. And I Googled like 2000s, 90s vibe. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? And I saw on Reddit, of all places, of course, Reddit.
Yes.
Someone was like saying, oh, like, wasn't there just like a vibe to like the late 90s, 2000s? Like it had a different vibe as to now, as to the past like 10 years or something like that. And you
Mhm.
had random people replying on that, and they were like, yeah, it was a bit different. People younger than me, people who are like Gen Z, they were like, oh, I was like a kid or something, but I still remember the vibe. Like it had a different vibe. It wasn't as technology focused. Like there was technology, but it wasn't like oversaturated like it is now. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
they were saying how they missed that. Like it peaked in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like it peaked in the sense that that's the thing. If you didn't have the internet, then everything was just all like analog in a way. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
So that's something some guy said or someone said on Reddit. They were saying the 2000s and maybe even earlier, which I can attest to. We can attest to in the 90s. But he said like early 2000s. It had like a. He's like I don't know how to say it, but it had like a tangibility to it. It was like you could touch things. You know what I'm saying? Like everything had to be touched. Like I'm saying, it was like analog or something. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It wasn't all digital. It wasn't all in your phone in your hand. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Went to look up shit, you had to do it sitting at a computer. You know what I'm saying? So those were the 90s for you. So he's about to reach out and like kiss Roxanne in front of all these people, and then all of a sudden you hear the song. It's like stand up across the crowd, even if you gotta shout out to my like it
Yeah.
starts slowing down, right?
No, well, except that it's like gotta stand.
Yeah, he's like you see him like the plug is pulled on him and he's
Yeah.
just dangling in the air looking like an idiot.
Principal Macer goes and
Yeah. he takes
And
off
that's
his
yeah,
glasses.
he takes off his shades
Yeah,
to reveal that it's actually
yeah,
Max.
and it was like, oh,
It's the goofball.
yeah, yeah, I hate that.
Yeah.
And then Roxanne looks at him like kind of embarrassed, but like still like, oh, like happy. Like I guess she
Yeah.
looked at it like he did this to impress her. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So, and I guess she was impressed by his moves, like that he could emulate Powerline so
Yeah.
well. Yeah. So then he's in the principal's office after that, and Bobby and PJ are there too, and he's just like waiting, right? He's waiting after PJ in
Yeah.
the principal's office, and Bobby's eating freaking cheese and shit like that. That's where he does Leaning Tower of Cheesa, right?
That's yeah,
Yeah.
that's where he does it.
Yeah. Hey, look, it's the Leaning Tower of Cheesa. Max is like, oh god. He has a knot in his stomach because he's nervous. And then we see what his dad does. So his dad, Goofy, and PJ's dad work together, right?
Yes, they do.
So what do they do?
They work at a kitty photography studio, like how they would have at those department
Yeah.
stores before. Like they would do Olin Mills at Kmart, or they would, or J.C. Penney used to take pictures.
Yeah, exactly. So like young people are too young to get that. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So like there used to be a thing in Sears or at Mervin's or
Yeah.
or at Macy's or whatever. Like
Yeah.
they would have workers who you would go there and be like, oh, I want nice pictures of my family or of my kids or whatever, and you would set an appointment and be like, okay, come here on this day, wear something nice, and we'll take pictures. So your family, your parents would set this up, and we would have to go in, begrudgingly to take these pictures,
Yeah.
and yeah, and then you would pose, and you'd like, okay, do this pose, look this way, and
Yeah.
yeah, like if you see Napoleon Dynamite, kind of like what she would do in Napoleon Dynamite, but she did it like in her house.
Well, Deb's glamour
Yeah,
shots.
yeah, it was like Deb's glamour shots, but at a department store and more official, more legit. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, they would have you do that. I mean, believe it or not, people had to pay good money to do this. You know what I'm saying? So these were their jobs. These are like jobs that don't exist anymore. You know what I'm saying? So that's partly what's interesting about this film too, is that they're doing two jobs that you wouldn't see nowadays. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we see them, and then we see that PJ's dad is an asshole. I always hated him.
I mean, if you ever watched throughout the whole
Goof Troop,
or any of the Goofy animations ever since
like
they
going back to
started,
the 20s, right?
yeah, going back to the 20s. They, one of the other characters that they would feature in all the Goofy segments was Pete.
Yeah.
And of course, they show Pete like he's just this all around asshole.
Yeah.
And of course, what's what most people think about him?
Yeah.
They hate him.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
myself included.
Yeah, I fucking hate him too.
Yeah.
He's like always the nemesis, and in a funny way, like he's almost like Homer Simpson, and Goofy is like Ned. You know what I'm saying? But Goofy is just a all around nice guy. He's not like religious. I think that's what people don't like about Ned. Ned Flanders.
Yeah.
And we empathize more with Homer, because he's the star, but also because he's more like quote unquote normal. Like we empathize with Homer more because we see ourselves in Homer. You know what I'm saying? Like Ned is too perfect. You know what I'm saying? He's too religious. But in this case, we just see the negatives of PJ's dad. He's just an asshole. Whereas Goofy, we just see him as an innocent, genuine, nice guy. You know what I'm saying? No religion involved in it. You know what I'm saying? But that's the brilliance of The Simpsons when you think about it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, having this religious neighbor. Like you never saw that in TV before, or like in cartoons, definitely not. You never saw a cartoon where there was like a religious neighbor and it was like annoying. You know what I'm saying? Like Homer hates him because he's so religious, right? Like everything he does, everything's so by the book, and Homer hates that. And the irony of it is that we empathize with Homer. We don't empathize with Ned Flanders. If anything, people hate Ned Flanders because he's
he's just so over the top.
Yeah, and Matt Groening. If you're a big Simpsons guy like I am, Matt Groening on the commentaries and stuff like that, he was like, well, that's what's funny. He's like, I'd much rather have Ned as a neighbor than Homer. You know what I'm saying? Like Ned is a nice guy. You know what I'm saying? Homer's an asshole. You know what I'm saying? But
that's a weird twist.
But he's applying it to the real world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Would you like Homer as your neighbor. He might be
I
entertaining you for
mean,
a
I
little
don't
bit,
even
but
think I would want him as my as a family member. Honestly,
yeah,
I don't
exactly.
understand how Marge has been able to put up with him all these years.
Yeah. But we'll get to that when we do our Simpsons
For
podcast.
sure. Or
Briterion
yes.
Simpsons. Yeah. Anyway, so that's their job. They do the Olin Mills thing at Sears or whatever,
Or
and it looks like a Sears, right?
it kind
Yeah,
of.
like it has the
Yeah,
white.
I
You
think
know what I'm
that's
saying?
really where they took it from.
Yeah,
Well, it was Sears slash Kmart
yeah,
because they usually had Olin Mills either on its own at Sears or at Kmart.
yeah.
That, or at least that's where I remember they
Yeah,
would
no,
have
you're
them.
right. You're
Mhm.
right. So they do that, and we see Goofy's really good with the little girl there. Like
Yeah.
he's like, oh, pose for the picture, and he has the squeaky
Oh
thing.
yeah, like
Yeah,
well at first the baby starts like she starts kind of whimpering.
yeah,
So then he thought like, how can I get her to come out happier in the
yeah,
picture? So he gets a squeaky toy, but he accidentally squeezes the squeaky part out of it, gets lodged into his throat, and then he starts squeaking. Like
yeah,
he starts like,
yeah. Yeah, and then but then she stops crying and she likes it. Like she's
yeah.
like, oh, like, and she's like, you can make that sound, and he's like, and he realizes, so he like tries to use it on her, and she's really into it. Then she starts posing for the picture, and he starts taking the picture. But then we hear PJ's dad kind of talk to him, and he's like, Goof, you need to keep an eye on your son. Like he's planting these stupid ideas in his head because he's like, if you don't have a good connection with your son, he's gonna grow up bad. He's gonna be a gangster or something like that. He's saying some stupid shit like that,
Yeah.
and then that kind of gets Goofy paranoid. You know what I'm saying? Because Goofy, he's like very genuine. You know what I'm saying? Like he takes people at their word. You know what I'm saying? So if he's saying that, he's like, oh shit, like he must be right. Like maybe Max. Maybe he can see that there's like this strain between him and Max, like they're not as close as they were on Goof Troop. You know what I'm saying? Because on
Yeah.
Goof Troop they were hella close.
Yeah, they were, but then Max became a teenager and
Yeah,
he started to,
yeah.
yeah,
Try to separate teenage angst. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? It's That's how all relationships are from a psychological perspective.
Hmm.
Family ones, kid ones, your spouses or whatever. There's stages. There's like the hold me tight stage. So in Goof Troop, he was in the hold me tight stage because he
Yeah.
was younger. It's
Hmm.
like, but now he's in the let me go stage, because he's in high school or whatever.
Hmm.
So we can see the dynamics of that, and Goofy's sad about that. You know what I'm saying? He's like, damn, like just a few years ago in Goof Troop, we're best buds. And he's like, but now, like he doesn't want to be with me. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah.
he's like, oh, maybe I'm too nerdy for him. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just a goof, and he's embarrassed by me. Um, so yeah, like PJ's dad plants that in his head, and he's like, "Damn, like I need to reconnect with my son somehow." And we see like PJ's dad is an asshole when he's like taking his pictures. Like he gets the girl, like the girl is
Oh
like
yeah,
really
he gets
squirmy.
like the yeah, he gets like the spoiled hyperactive girl.
Yeah,
And you can see that who I assume is her mom, but she looks a little old to be her mom, but she just looks like this like frumpy middle-aged woman.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then PJ, he's like, "Oh, I'm not even gonna try to entertain these damn kids. I'm just gonna slap them on. I'm just gonna put some Velcro and slap this thing on
Yeah,
their ass."
so he just grabs the we just see this little girl who is
Yeah.
already I'm pretty sure to most people she's pretty annoying. Like she
Yeah.
already you can already see she's being a brat.
Yeah.
So he picks her up and he slaps some Velcro on her diaper.
Yeah.
And of course, because he put the other, the other Velcro
The other
part,
side, yeah.
yeah, on the, like on that seat
On the
area.
podium, yeah,
Yeah.
like where they sit.
Yeah, where they sit, and she's trying to unstick herself from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she can't or whatever. But he's going on about, Max being in a gang or something like that.
Or that he's gonna end up going to prison.
Yeah, exactly. And then because of that, he's about to take the picture, and he's like, "Oh, like where's the girl or whatever?" And we see the diaper sitting there,
Yeah.
right? And we see her like running out.
You can see her. Well, you can see that her dress flying up, so you can
Yeah.
see her butt because she had actually wiggled out of her diaper to
Yeah.
run around the department store.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I don't know. Would they do that nowadays in Disney? Would you think? Or do you think it's still innocent
I mean,
ish?
it somewhat is because I remember that. What was that one show that? Well, it was one of these shows that Demi Lovato was in, and they were talking about some dog because instead it was a parody to Lassie, but
Hmm.
instead of Lassie, the dog was called Gassy because it would fart all the time. Yeah, so they still have some sort of sense of humor there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, so
But that's, I mean, I'm not too familiar with Disney nowadays other than with Bluey.
mhm.
At least that's what they show on TV, but that's what I know.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Bluey seems a lot more innocent though.
Yeah, oh yeah. Even though there are some instances that I feel that are pretty funny. I mean, and you can tell that they do it for the, for the parents to get that kind of humor, but it's still pretty innocent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then is that the part where he sees the little toy? He sees like the
Yeah,
fishing toy
yeah, he
there.
sees the fishing dog because
Yeah.
he does have that kind of goofy look
Yeah.
to
He
him.
looks like
Yeah,
them.
and it's a like a goofy looking doll fishing.
Right.
Yeah, so that's where he gets it because it was on one of the shelves next to the photography studio.
Yeah. So like that, is like a sign that he sees like, oh,
Yeah,
like
like
yeah, me and my son need to go on a fishing trip to
yes.
rebond, our relationship. So he's like, okay, well, I guess that's the plan then.
Hmm.
Um and like, well, does he get a call right before that from the
Yeah,
principal?
that's when he gets, yeah, right before the whole thing happened where the other kid wiggled out of her diaper when he
Hmm.
was going to take her picture.
Yeah.
Right before that, that's when he gets a call from Principal Macer, and he tells him like, "Your son is a delinquent,"
Yeah.
and so like he said, like he's apparently a gang
No,
member.
he's like
Yeah.
he like crashed the stage dressed like a gang member, and he's like, gang member. He freaks out and he
Yeah.
hears that, but like, because like PJ's dad had just said that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny.
I think it's really weird that you just keep calling him PJ's dad instead of Pete.
Well, okay, Pete, fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
And he said, like, if you don't get your son straightened out,
yeah,
he's going to end up in the electric chair.
yeah,
And that gets really stuck in his head.
yeah,
And that's he's like, oh, I really need to do something
yeah,
about
yeah, yeah. But it's funny how he like repeats everything. Literature, like like. Yeah, he freaks him out with that. So he's like, shit, I need to reconnect with this damn kid.
Yeah.
So that's why, yeah, he decides to do this father son fishing trip.
Yeah.
So and it's like the next morning, right? Like,
Well, it's actually so right after the kid runs out without her
yeah,
diaper,
yeah,
then it cuts to the end of the school day. Pretty much like the end of the day during the last day of school. They're
mhm,
all walking out. They're all walking out of the building, and of course, when some kids notice that it's Max, they start chanting at him because they thought that, oh, what he did during the assembly was so cool.
mhm,
And but then, it's him just racing back home, and he thinks like, oh, like I just want to get back home, and I just want to start my summer vacation.
yeah,
And it's just like it's another sequence of, another replay of Standout. And,
right,
you just see a lot of different things that he
yeah,
does on his way back home.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. So like, he gets chewed out by the principal, but then Roxanne sees him and was like, "Oh, that was really good" or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Well, I mean,
doesn't he tell her like, "Oh, I plan on going to the show in
well,
L.A."
that's after the fact. He doesn't tell that to her right after they get out
Okay,
of school.
okay,
But then he gets back home, and of course he sees Goofy, his dad,
yeah,
and he's still like, oh, like he sees him packing up, and it looks like he's about to go on a trip.
mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, like where are you heading to, Dad? And he's like, well, I'm going fishing with my best buddy. And he's like, who? Donald Duck? He's
Yeah.
like, no, silly, you. And of
Yeah.
course, he freaks
Yeah.
out at
He's
them.
like, dong. Like, he's like, what do you mean me? And he's like, yeah, we're going on the father-son fishing trip. Like, and he's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He's freaking out because he plans on going to LA or right? Or,
Yeah, because well, not right at that moment. He's not. So here's the thing. Well, forget about the LA thing. The thing is that he and his friends had already agreed that they were gonna go to. I guess they well what was it? Oh, Stacy. I guess they were gonna go to Stacy's house to watch the Powerline concert live on pay-per-view. Yeah. And so then Max was already supposed to be going with Roxanne because while he was in the office waiting to get reprimanded by Principal Macer, Roxanne walks by and because he she tried to talk to him, and that's when she drops all her books and he helps her. And as they're talking, he actually asked her, "What do you want?" Well, because wait, they both got invited, and he asked her, "What do you want us to go together to Stacy's house to watch the
okay.
Powerline concert?" And she's like, "I would love to." So they had already agreed on that, but then now going on this fishing trip with Goofy is ruining that whole plan.
Right. Yeah. Good way to, like, explain the whole thing. And like how he's like gonna ask her out, but he's like, oh, would you like the like he starts getting nervous and
Yeah,
starts talking stupid or whatever.
yeah.
I always thought that was funny. He starts talking all
Well,
stupid.
he just stutters,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. But like even the sound of his voice changes. It's funny.
Well, I'm sure that he's really nervous about asking her.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So and so Goofy is planning for them to go to Lake Destiny in
Yeah.
Idaho, right?
Yes.
Um and when he's being like Max realizes that he's being forced to do that,
Yeah.
by his dad, like no ifs, ands, or buts, right?
Yeah.
So then Max attempts to cancel his date with Roxanne, like to watch the show. Um,
Yeah.
but but I think he freaks out because she thinks that he's rejecting her, kind of at the last second. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So she's like, "Oh, I guess you don't want to you don't want to go out with me." But then,
Yeah. Well, then because right before they go on, they get on the road for the trip. Max has Goofy, stop by. He has some
yeah,
have him stop by Roxanne's house,
yeah,
and he has to go and explain
yeah.
what's going on.
Hmm.
But in reality, so when he stops by to talk to her, he thought like, how can I, because he said I can no longer go with you to the, he said now I can no longer go with you to Stacy's house to watch the
Right.
concert. So then she gets pretty disappointed at that, and then she just tells him, I guess I'll just go with somebody else. But
Mm.
he's like, no, he's like, wait, it's not that I don't want to go with you. He said it's something else has come up. And she goes like, what? And he's like, my dad is taking me to the Powerline concert in LA. And she goes like, wait, you're driving all across the country just to see a concert?
Yeah.
And that's when he makes something up. And it's
He says, "Oh, my dad knows Powerline."
yeah,
Right?
he said, well, because he made up like, oh yeah, he's a musician, and so they would go on tour together and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he just
Yeah.
pulled it out of his sleeve to not,
Yeah.
disappoint her, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because she thought he was like rejecting her instead of like he was making up an excuse not to
Yeah.
be with her, right?
Yeah.
So he pulls that out of his ass, and she's like more excited. She's like, "Oh wow!" Like, and then he's like, "Yeah,
So
I'll."
she's actually impressed by that.
Yeah, yeah, and he's like, "Yeah, I'll try to say hi." From there, and she's like, "Oh, that sounds great," and he's
Yeah.
like, "Shit, like now, now I have to live that down. How the hell am I gonna? Not only will I not be there, but how the hell am I gonna say hi on the fucking TV?"
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, he really has to pull a miracle for that to happen. I mean, it doesn't really say where they live, right? Like,
Not specifically. I think it's just like they don't get into those kinds of specifics.
I
It's
have a
just like, yeah,
I have a feeling
it's
it's
just
like in New
like
York,
or like
anywhere
goof.
USA,
It could be, yeah, like Goof Town or something
Gooftown,
like that.
USA.
Yeah,
I have a feeling it's supposed to be kind of like New York, like the suburbs of New York,
yeah.
like Long Island or
It
some
could,
shit like
yeah,
that.
it could be
Because
something
they're
like that,
driving cross country.
and it has that kind of look too.
Yeah, like when they start going in the city, when they start driving in this next scene, then it does look like New York. You know what I'm saying? It does
Yeah,
look like the city. And you see them on the road, and they're both kind of pissed off. I mean, Max is pissed off that he has to go, and Goofy's pissed off that his son is not enthusiastic about it.
yeah,
So he's playing like Perry Como or whatever on the radio. It's
yeah.
like high hopes, he's got high hopes, and then he's changed
Yeah.
it to some metal.
Like, well, it's like some really hard rock.
Yeah, yeah, and then
So
Goofy's like,
with
fuck.
some really fast
Yeah,
guitar.
Goofy's like, fuck that, I want to hear Perry Como. So he plays it,
Well,
he switches back.
he just finds it really odd that
Yeah,
his son would be listening to that
right.
kind of music, so he just switches it back.
Yeah. High hopes. He's got high hopes. Yeah, and he Max switches it back though, and then they keep fucking with it, and so they end up just breaking the radio, right?
Yes.
So that just doesn't work. Um, but they just keep driving on the freeway, and we start to hear some whistling that like like
Yeah.
like you hear some whistling, and then it goes into the next song, which is a good little song, on the open road,
Yeah.
right? Um, and we see guys in different cars on the freeway. We see like truck drivers getting pissed off. We see some nuns driving,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, we see some prisoner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we even see a dead guy come out of his casket.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, yeah, I think it's a good song. I mean,
Yeah.
if anything, it kind of reminds me of the beginning of La La Land or whatever.
I think the song is even better, honestly.
I'm sure you do, but just the fact that they're on the freeway and
Yeah, but
singing.
yeah, but yeah, but these characters pulled it off way better.
Okay. Um. So yeah. So on the road, what's the first thing they hit up after this song?
Oh, yeah. So right after this song, they actually get to their uh so yeah, so from their itinerary they get to the first place they have, or at least Goofy had marked because he was dictating this whole trip.
Right.
Yeah. So they first get to that Lester's possum place,
Mm.
which I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I do remember that it was, yeah, that it was that kind of Lester's possum park.
Yeah.
With the yeah.
Yeah, it's like a possum park meets Chuck E. Cheese meets Pistol Pete's Pizza. Yeah, it's like hella rundown.
Yeah, to
And
say the least.
and possums are just nasty.
Yeah, they're pretty freaky looking, but actually, when you look at it, they're actually very helpful to our environment more than you think.
Like getting rid of vermin and shit like that.
Yes.
Okay.
So, if you, on the side note, if you ever see a possum, just leave it alone. Don't freak it out. Just let it do its thing, please. And much less, don't ever torture them. Don't ever do any type of cruelty.
Yeah.
Please be kind to them.
No, I wouldn't do that, but they freak me out. Well, we have a Disney related possum story, right?
Yeah. Oh, going on another tangent about this.
Well, let's say this because I think it's funny.
Okay. Sure.
So we're at Disney California Adventure, right? And
Yes, in the Marvel.
was that last year?
So it was it was, yes, it was last year because it was during the summer.
Okay, yeah.
So it was August 2024.
August 2024, we're at California Adventure walking around
on the Marvel universe.
Yeah, in the Marvel area, and then we see this line of people, and then they're all with Spider-Man. We're like, oh shit, Spider-Man! So we all run out, and then my niece is like a real big Spider-Man freak right now. So she was really excited, and then what was cool is like the guy talks just like him. He talks just like Tom Holland, like he's like, yeah, sure, like you can take a picture or whatever. He was like all really, yeah, he really sold the part. So we're in line, we're the next ones, but they were like doing like a little break. but we are gonna
Yeah.
like be the next ones to take a picture. And then while we're in line, all of a sudden we see this like big white thing running on the side or whatever. And everyone's like, "Oh, what the hell?" And the handler, they have like a handler, who's with the talent, quote unquote. Um, and I could hear the handler guy whisper at Spider Man like, "Oh, there was like a big ass possum that just ran behind you." And Spider Man was like, "Whoa!" He was like trying to like keep calm. And he's like, "Oh, but is it gone?" And he's like, "Yeah, it's gone." He's like, "Oh," and you can see him like looking around or whatever, like trying to see if it would come back or whatever. But yeah, that freaked me out.
So that was interesting.
Yeah, and well, what was funny is that I was in this class the other day. It was a dance class, and
Hmm.
all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some possum ran in to the classroom,
Huh.
and I think the kids saw that. They were like, "Whoa!" They kind of freaked out a little bit. But then the dance instructor lady looked over and she saw it, and she was like, "Oh shit!" Like that's literally what she said. And then the possum just kind of ran out or whatever. But she was hella freaking out. It scared the crap out of her, and she was like, "Sorry, kids, like sorry." Don't listen to what I said, but yeah. So possums are freaky.
But yeah, so they get there, and of course, Max is dreading this thing. He
Yeah, he
really
just thinks
doesn't.
it's lame. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, he really doesn't want to be there, and of course, Goofy drags him along.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and then we also see, and that's how Max realizes, oh yeah, this place must be really bad. If we see a mom dragging her little girl into and she's all crying. She's like, like, so he's like, yeah, it's not good.
Yeah. So that really sets how lame the trip is gonna seem to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Max is like even more pissed off in a way than he initially was because I think he thought there might be some fun, but this place is hella whack. So um, Max isn't feeling that, and and then they run into PJ and Pete um, camping the next day.
Oh wait, where are we cutting off that
Oh,
for all of a sudden?
well, what happens after that?
So
After,
then during the time, I'm just going to say it. So during the time that they're at this Lester's possum land, they first, Goofy first takes them to the animatronic show, which is horrible
yeah, which
because
is
they're
like the
all
Chuck E.
breaking.
Cheese thing. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're all really breaking down, and of course you can see that one of them introduces, one of the, there's this old possum guy working there, introduces the animatronics. They start playing a song, but then they start really glitching and breaking down, and it's like it just becomes a whole kind of afterwards.
Yeah.
And yeah, of course, Max hates it, and Goofy, regardless, he's still having a really fun time. So then
Yeah.
everyone storms out of there. Goofy buys them possum hats, and he's just like, oh, like he just walks away, and then of course, he sees one of the workers in disguise, like the
Hmm.
Disney like the Disney character.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then he sees him and he walks up to him and he's like, "Who's your favorite possum?" And Max is like, "Don't touch me." Yeah, he's like, "Oh no, you must be so sad. Oh, I know. You need a big hug." So then he hugs Max. Like, he gives him like a really
Like
tight
a bear hug.
squeeze. Yeah, bear hug. And Max is all upset and he smacks him and he gets his head on, backwards. So
Yeah, he
he's
slaps
like,
his head up, like he flips his head. Yeah.
yeah.
And he says like, "Beat it, doofus." That's what he
Yeah.
says.
Well, the possum guy says beat it, doofus.
Yeah.
And of course, all these kids come over and drag the possum character guy along. Yeah, and they're like, "Yay!" And they just drag him around.
Yeah.
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 But then when he walks back to where the crowd is, Max, that is. So when Max walks back to the crowd, Goofy drags him along to do this dance, and some possum gets into his pants, which doesn't help the situation. And he's just yeah, really hating it. He's kind of like, get me out of here. And everyone is just laughing at the whole situation.
Yeah.
He feels really humiliated. So afterwards, he just leaves.
Hmm.
He just walks back to the car and he thinks, I'm just gonna whip her. I don't care. So
Yeah.
then Goofy walks after him and he's like, what's the matter? And yeah.
Yeah. And
And
he's just pissed off.
yeah, and it doesn't help that it starts raining right at that moment too.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And the next day, Max is like looking in the water and he's like fantasizing of Roxanne, like he sees her in the water, but then Goofy comes in and like yeah, yeah, destroys his little fantasy. And he's like, oh, you want to do the perfect cast? Like he's trying to show him how to do the perfect fishing cast.
Yeah.
Which I could kind of relate to that because my older brother, he really liked fishing especially when I was a kid. I think he still likes it, but
he still likes it.
yeah, but I mean, he would go a lot, and I always hated it. I always thought it was fucking boring. And I think my dad kind of liked fishing too, even though he didn't do it as often. So I could relate to it in that sense, and in a way, my dad kind of reminded me of Goofy. Like,
well, yeah, he is kind of old school.
yeah, he's kind of old school, old fashioned. So we didn't have like the best relationship growing up, honestly. And Goofy is a little more genuine and a little more innocent than my dad. Um, so if Goofy was my dad, I probably would cut him a little more slack. But my dad, when I was a kid, even now to a certain degree, he's always been like very kind of critical of me, so, but especially when I was a kid, I really hated that and just made me want to like not hang out with him very much. You know what I'm saying? Kind of only after a while, when I became a lot older, has our relationship been a lot better. So in that sense, I could empathize with Max. You know what I'm saying? Like I was, I was a kid in the '90s, and my dad was, old school and kind of corny. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but at least Goofy has a good heart.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I feel like unlike a lot of parents out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I mean, I could I could empathize with it in that sense. Okay, we're back. Had to take a bit of a break.
Oh, quite a bit of a break actually.
So we had to record in two parts again. This is the second part. If you're watching this at home, we're in a different location, and we're gonna finish the next half of Goofy Movie. A Goofy Movie. So where did we leave off? I left off where he was trying to show him like the perfect cast.
Oh yes.
And how to do it, and I mentioned how I hate fishing because my brother really liked fishing growing up. I mean, I didn't hate it because he liked it. I just found it boring. You know what I'm saying?
No, I can feel a lot of people would find fishing boring.
Yeah.
I mean, I just never really learned it. Not that I ever found it boring, but I would say I never really got exposed, even though I had a great uncle who would fish, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, well, my brother-in-law, Willow, he really likes fishing too. That's something that him and Earl kind of bond over. But I've never been into it. It's always been boring as a dog's ass to me.
How does that come together?
I just wanted to quote Mel Gibson on that, because he said that in an interview one time. He did some movie, and they're asking him, "Oh, can you tell us about that movie?" And he was like, "No, I don't want to talk about it. It's boring as a dog's ass." That's what he said.
Well, he's pretty weird already, so I'm not surprised he would say something like that, but it's still...
Yeah.
I wouldn't reference that guy, honestly.
Yeah. He has his own demons.
To say the least.
Yeah. But the whole thing with him and Ricky Gervais at the Golden Globes, that was fucking hilarious. I loved their back and forth that whole time. Anyways, so after that, so while staying at the same motel, um,
Are we
he,
getting that
hmm,
far ahead?
oh wait, no, never mind. Where did we leave off?
Okay, so
Hmm.
Goofy is okay. So yeah, Goofy is trying to show Max the perfect cast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But Max really doesn't care for it. He thinks it's stupid. Um, and well, they run into PJ and
And
Pete
Pete, yeah.
while camping, and then this big ass Winnebago that has all this shit on it.
Yeah, it's like really exaggerated. Like,
Yeah,
if you guys think glamping is already like a really upgraded version of camping, like, no, like, he really went way too far with the whole glamping aspect.
yeah,
It's really that, like, state of the art, really glamorous, whatever you want to call it.
yeah.
I don't know.
It's ridiculous. It's hella over the top glamping, if you want to call it that.
It is glamping because I don't constitute that as real camping.
No, they're not roughing it at all. They have a satellite dish, TV, and all this shit.
That's ridiculous.
Microwaves and stuff like
That's
that.
ridiculous. Then, you shouldn't even be camping then if you're
Yeah,
gonna bring everything like that with you.
yeah, but I think it's funny that they even included that. Like they were trying to show how ridiculous it was. You know what I'm saying? The fact that Pete is doing this. I think they were trying to like make fun of that.
Yeah.
How people, they say they're camping, but they just bring basically their whole house with them. You know what I'm saying? Like it's their house on wheels. You know?
It's stupid, honestly.
Yeah, exactly. So while Goofy is showing Max how to do the perfect cast, they accidentally lure Bigfoot to their camp,
Yes.
and I guess they didn't realize it. Like they're in the car.
Well, what happened was that, so as Goofy is pulling on the fishing rod, he accidentally catches, his
Yeah, he hooks.
yeah, he accidentally, so his rod gets hooked into the so it's actually a steak that Pete is cooking on
Yeah,
the grill.
yeah,
So he catches it and then he accidentally lures Bigfoot that way.
yeah. With that, because Bigfoot smells it and he's like, it smells good.
Yeah.
And would Bigfoot be a carnivore? Do you think?
Oh, I'm sure he would be.
Aren't primates vegetarians? You know what I'm saying? But
Um,
is it
um,
because
I don't
he's
know.
a crypto animal?
Let, let me look into that now that you are mentioning it, but I don't know. Technically, aren't we primates and we're supposed to be omnivores?
um, yeah, but there's debate on that. Like, there's debate that humans are meant to eat meat or whatever. Like technically, we can live without meat. Like, we can just eat like nuts and crap like that.
Yeah.
We can like get all the nutrients from like nuts and vegetables and stuff.
Yeah, but I think earlier on we ate a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually, I just found it, and it says the diet of Bigfoot did involve some meat, fruits and vegetables, eggs, honey, and scavenged fruit. So yeah, so primarily meat such as deer, elk, moose, small mammals, and fish.
So
So
that's what Bigfoot eats. How do we know what Bigfoot eats?
I just googled it.
Yeah, but he's not real or whatever. But
Well,
like hypothetically,
yeah, hypothetically, whoever made up this legend of Bigfoot, that's what they assume that okay, or that he would eat or they would eat.
right? Well, I used to watch what was that? Monster Quest. I used to watch that a lot on History Channel, and they
Hmm.
would show all these like crypto animals. Bigfoot, Loch Ness monster, Mothman, and shit like that.
Hmm.
I always found
Interesting.
that very interesting. Um, so yeah, so it was funny seeing Bigfoot in this, goofy movie. As a kid, I always been
Yeah.
interested in like the macabre and shit like that. I always used to watch sightings when I was a kid because they would
Uh-huh.
show, aliens and Bigfoot and shit like that. So I was always really into that. So the fact that Bigfoot does a cameo in Goofy movie is pretty funny.
Hmm.
Um, and so because they see that Bigfoot is on their tail, they like hide in the car, right?
Yeah, they have to run, and Pete sees that Bigfoot is approaching them, so he quickly snaps his, you know,
He just packs
his
everything
yeah
up, right?
his luxurious RV. Like he had already pulled out a pool, a
Yeah,
field, every exaggerated thing you can imagine possible. He managed to snap it back in 3 seconds, and
yeah.
he and PJ just
He
run
just
out of
hauls
there.
ass out of there.
Yeah, it's just like stupid.
Yeah,
As to where Goofy and Max are really struggling to get inside their tiny car and,
yeah,
and get the tent, and get the tent squared away.
yeah. I mean, and they're just stuck in their little yellow car. And that's how you can tell Pete's an asshole. He didn't even think about Goofy at all. He just took off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He didn't think about his friend, quote unquote, his coworker, and his
Well,
son.
that's what tells you that he's just a selfish jackass.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I mean, he doesn't even care about his son. He
Yeah,
just cares about himself.
yeah. And so Bigfoot, is he like? I think he's like he finds their picnic basket or something, doesn't he?
Yes, he does, actually.
And he kind of eats
Well,
whatever's in
yeah,
there.
he finds like a few different random things that they accidentally left outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he finds like somehow his Walkman falls on his head, right? Max's Walkman.
Yeah.
And what does he hear on the Walkman?
So he hears "Staying Alive" by the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he all of a sudden he's like, "What is this?" And then all of a sudden he starts smiling and he starts doing the disco, the Galileo fingers, or whatever. Like as a kid, I thought that was hilarious. I remember me and my friend Eddie, we loved that.
Well, I also found it really funny, and even to this day, I still find it pretty funny.
Yeah.
And if anything, I remember I was somewhere they were selling all these bunch of different random pins. I think we were.
Was that Disneyland or no?
It might have been like maybe a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought a Bigfoot pin, but I don't know if it was Disneyland now looking at it. I think it was like a one of these random DIY shows, and
Okay.
someone was selling the pin, and you can actually move his hand up and down to for him to do that disco
To do
move.
the Galileo.
Yes, exactly. So you can actually like shuffle his hand,
Right.
with the finger pointing up, like up and down, up and down. So
Yeah.
it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
So I have that pin around somewhere.
Yeah. What's funny is in Saturday. I mean, they're obviously referencing Saturday Night Fever with that because
Yes.
that's where the song came from
Hmm.
originally.
Yeah.
Staying Alive. And at this point it's kind of corny and cheesy. But at the time that was like pretty cool. That was like badass that the Bee Gees were
Oh
doing
yeah.
disco because their original music is very Beatley. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Their
Yeah.
music from the '60s.
You listen to the very early
Yeah,
music.
and to me, Barry Gibb, he's one of the greatest songwriters of all time. He's written masterpieces, and one of his earliest songs actually is one of his best, honestly. And "To Love
Hmm.
Somebody," like to me,
Oh
that's one of the greatest songs ever written. I think. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? That's his "Yesterday" to me. You know what I'm saying? That's his "Viva La Vida" Coldplay song.
Oh
Like,
yeah. For
like,
sure.
like it's just a masterpiece, and it's been covered a million times. But then they reinvented themselves in the '70s, and they, caught this disco wave, and that Saturday Night Fever album is one of the biggest of all time. It's fucking huge.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, what's funny is that for the photo shoot, John Travolta was doing all these disco moves when they were taking pictures. He was doing dances, and then it was like a long ass photo shoot, and they were like, "Come on, like let's just do one more picture." And he was like, oh, I'm fucking exhausted or whatever. I want to get the hell out of here. And then the photographer's like, come on, just do one more pose or whatever. He's like, all right. He's like, this is what I'm going to do. So then he just did that Galileo. He's like, that's all. I'm just going to give you this pose and that's it. And then that ended up being like the disco pose. You know what I'm saying? That's what's funny about
Yeah.
it. You know? But yeah, so they managed to escape Bigfoot, right? Because he does Bigfoot fall asleep after a while, or like he's listening to the music and he falls asleep, or what happens?
Yeah, so I remember that after a while, because they were waiting for him to either walk away or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and they're locked inside their car. But then I remember they both start getting really hungry.
Mm-hmm.
So then that's when they pop open the alphabet soup because
Oh
that's
yeah,
all they could really find.
yeah.
So Goofy uses his teeth as a
The
way
can
to,
opener.
as a can opener, and
Yeah,
then he just pops two holes
yeah,
on the can, and then he pours
yeah,
after he because he had actually used
yeah. The
the old
cigarette
yeah
lighter.
the
Yeah,
old cigarette lighters
yeah.
that cars used to have way
Right.
before one,
Yeah.
you know and
Back
he
in the
used
day.
that, yeah, so he used the cigarette lighter to heat the can,
Right.
and then when it gets heated up, they poured it in cups and they just drank the soup out of the
Yeah.
and then
Eh,
while they were drinking it, that's when they noticed that the car starts shaking,
Uh,
and they're wondering what happened. So he actually climbed the roof. So Bigfoot, that is, he
mm,
climbed the
mm,
roof
yeah.
to go to sleep. So
He
he
was
fell
asleep
asleep.
on the
Yeah,
roof,
he
right?
was
Yeah.
asleep on the roof of the car.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, but going back to the soup, it's actually a very sentimental
Yeah.
moment.
It's like one of the
Yeah.
first poignant moments of the film, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Because it reminds Goofy when he sees that, he's like, hi, Dad, soup. And Max is like, what? And he's like, hi, Dad, soup. You don't remember that? And he's like, what's that? Or whatever. He's like, oh, you used to, like, when you had alphabet soup, you used to leave.
Yeah, like you used to spell like little messages out for me.
Yeah. And you used to put like hi dad. You used to leave like hi dad there and I would see it and he's like and I would, love it. Um
Mm-hmm.
so then after a while like they eat the soup and then he falls asleep, right? Like Max falls asleep and then
Yeah.
Goofy looks in the
He
container.
Well, yeah, because Max had handed him his cup,
Yeah.
and well, I think Max tries to take a nap
Yeah.
actually. So then Goofy looks inside of the cup and he sees that he had actually spelled out "Hi, Dad," and you could tell that Goofy is like being brought to tears because of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He like winces when he sees it.
Yeah.
He winces the night away.
Not that we really care about that band at this point. If Just look up "When Sing the Night Away" and you'll see who we're talking about.
Yeah.
It's a band that I used to like a long time ago.
Well, and George mentioned them on Rush Hour for some damn reason.
How did that
Because
happen?
he was saying in Rush Hour 2, there's a piece of music, it reminds him of this song.
Or you mean of this band?
Yeah, of this band. Like,
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, it sounds just like this song from the first
So
album.
yeah, so I think probably "When Sing the Night Away" was the last album I liked by this band.
Yeah, me
So
too. That was the last album I was really fucking with. And then he ended up doing some weird side project that I wasn't really fucking with.
yeah,
Anyways.
but
Yeah, we digress. So then the next morning, Goofy makes Max the navigator of the trip. He's like, okay, you're my GPS.
yeah.
You tell me where to go. Um,
But here's the thing. It happened at a diner. So I
right.
think he just thought like, oh, like, we're having breakfast here, and he thought, you know what? I think my son is of age to start being responsible, so I'll let him make some decisions. And he announces it to everybody eating there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cringeworthy, right? If you're
Yeah.
Max.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh, for
yeah,
sure.
he wasn't feeling that. Well, but what's interesting? So three straight years in the 90s, at least, maybe more, but 3 straight years there were cross country road trip movies that I really loved.
Mm-hmm.
So, 94, what's a cross country road trip movie that we love from 1994?
It said Dumb and
Dumb
Dumber.
and Dumber. Ding!
Yeah, but they weren't supposed to go
No,
that
but
far away, but they were so stupid that they ended up driving around like
yeah,
crazy.
but they have the same scene, the same like fork in the road scene. You know what I'm saying? And like,
Yeah.
where do we go? Like, it has that same sort of scene. So that was 94, Dumb and Dumber. 95, a Goofy movie. 96, it's another road trip movie, actually, from the same directors of Dumb and Dumber. Um, a little movie called Kingpin.
Oh, that movie. Oh,
Yeah,
jeez. Well, we have to talk about that one
yeah,
sometime.
yeah. I love Kingpin. So yeah, you got 3 straight years.
Uh-huh.
Two of the films are from the same directors, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got 3 straight years of good cross country road trip movies. So yeah, he announces that in the diner, and then it says that night while staying at the same motel, Pete overhears a conversation between Max and PJ and informs Goofy that Max has tricked him into traveling to Los Angeles. Um,
Wait, are we getting that far ahead?
because what happens in between?
So remember after he declares Max the,
Yeah,
pretty much like I guess
the
direct
GPS basically.
GPS of
Yeah,
their road trip. You just see that there's a montage of places that Max would like to go to, like they go to an amusement park and they're on a roller coaster, and while Max is thrilled, Goofy's getting sick.
yeah. That's like me and you on a roller coaster. You know?
Well, for anyone who knows me, I've always really liked roller coasters.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I feel like I am somewhat of an adrenaline junkie.
Yeah, and I fucking hate them. But that just goes to show you what a team player I am. Even though I hate them, I'll still ride them often
Yeah,
with Aileen.
even though lately I have not forced them to, because the last couple of times we have been to Disneyland, we I have gotten on the Incredicoaster with our niece,
Yeah.
and I don't make him ride it because I know that he really doesn't like roller coasters. Even though selfish, crazy me would have made him ride it way before. I remember we used to have season passes to Knott's Berry Farm,
Yeah.
and the one ride that I would make him ride all the rides that I wanted to go on. But the one ride that I had made him go on once, and he really hated it, was the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That ride's pretty scary. Because it's just like wooden and rickety and it's like hella loose. Like you're in the seat and it doesn't like there's no seat belt. So when you wiggle in there, you feel like you're gonna fall out of the fucking cart. Like
Yeah, it's a pretty, because it's wooden, it's a pretty old and rickety ride.
yeah.
And that's the reason why sometimes they have to shut it down seasonally. It's to be
For
able to,
maintenance.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
to be able to maintain the ride. Because if you just have it riding all year long, who knows what would happen.
Yeah. What's that one ride that everyone like when they go on they come back down they're all like traumatized by it when
I
they
think
get
it's called like the
accelerator,
accelerator.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
But that we have. Wait, did we ever ride it?
no.
No, yeah, I think you were way too scared.
Yeah, no.
And even I was kind of like, you know what? Even for me, that was kind of scary.
Yeah, cuz people walk off that ride like they've just been molested by Freddy Krueger or something. They just
Whoa, that I was not expecting that description.
like their faces are just like so traumatized when they walk off that ride. It's just crazy. I'm like, I'm not riding that shit. You see their faces as they're walking off this or trying to walk off this because they're like really trembling after that. You know?
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but I
Yeah.
don't know if I would have used that description. But it still looks pretty rough.
Yeah. Well, you know, like I said, I'm trying to emphasize the horror of it. Um, So and Goofy doesn't believe Pete though. He doesn't believe that. He thinks Pete's lying to like piss him off,
Mm-hmm.
about Max wanting to go to LA, you know. Um
But yeah, so the reason how this ended up happening, because let me tell you guys, Kevin is already getting way ahead of it, but he's not even describing that
well, that's why I
Goofy.
told you.
So yeah, Goofy and Max. Okay, so Goofy and Max are staying at this motel, which Pete and PJ also end up staying at the same place. So while while Max and PJ are both in the hotel room, sharing a pizza, Goofy joins Pete at the hot tub, and he thought like, oh, maybe I'll take this time to hang out with him, talk to him, but then right before that, Pete noticed that while Max and PJ were hanging out in the room, he eavesdropped. He thought like, oh, let's see what I can get, out of these kids' conversation. But then, he overheard Max saying like, oh, like I changed the itinerary on our road trip map. So we've been hitting different places. And he said, but the one thing that my dad doesn't know is that our last stop will be in LA to hopefully go to the Powerline concert. And Pete heard that, and of course, he took that to his advantage to turn Goofy against him.
Right.
So that's what he tells him in the hot tub. But then when Pete tells that to Goofy, he's like, I don't believe you. And he's like, what? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I don't believe my son would ever do something like that. He's like, I'm just letting you know, like, you should really try to get to know your son better.
Yeah.
And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, hey, I'm just letting you know, my son respects me.
Yeah.
And I have always said, of course, he respects you because you're an asshole. I say that every time I watch the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're right. And
so that actually left Goofy thinking.
Yeah, he got paranoid after that, right?
Yeah, he did.
So that was in the back of his head. So when they're driving on the freeway again, he tells Max like they're coming up to the fork in the road between like, going left.
Yeah, between going eastbound or westbound.
Yeah. So he's like, all right, Max, you're the navigator. Tell me where to go. Like he tells him that, and Max is like, okay, and he's like, well, come on, Max. Like they're getting hella close to the, to the split in the road, and Max doesn't know what to do, and he's just like, and Goofy's freaking out, and then Max is just like left, and he just like skids at the last moment. He like even slightly screeches against like the the freeway or whatever. And he goes to the left, and you can see Goofy is all disappointed when he, made that decision.
Yeah.
And he's sad. His face goes long, and Max is like feeling guilty, and he's like, hey, Dad, you want to listen to the radio or you want to play a game?
Yeah, and he's just visibly upset. Like, he doesn't change his face at all.
Yeah.
No matter what Max tells him.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't know what to do at that point, and so Goofy stops the car at the Grand Canyon, and he kind of walks away, and he's disappointed in Max, and Max is like, oh, like, you're ruining my life. Like he keeps mentioning that to Goofy, and he leans on the car a bit, and the brake was loose on it, and
so the car starts rolling. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and that reminds me of Ferris Bueller. Just how, he leans on the car and it rolls into the canyon.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that hurts.
yeah, that was pretty bad. So, yeah, the car rolls off and Goofy and Max chase after it and end up riding the car down into the Colorado River. And they're just kind of floating on it. And they kind of have a real argument there. Um, he really says, like, stop ruining my life. And it's like this real, cathartic moment for Max, and Goofy is just like, I just want to go fishing with my boy, like they're both, they have their goals, and, they're not seeing eye to eye, quote unquote,
Mm-hmm.
on this, and, Goofy says no matter how old Max gets, he'll always be his son.
Mm-hmm.
And, the two, they start to go into song, right?
Yeah. Oh. Yeah.
And this song, it's probably the saddest song in the movie, right?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah. Um, what's the song called? It's Nobody Else But You, right?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid and I would see this scene and I would kind of think about it, it would make me really sad. Because I would just think like, oh, I don't have the best relationship with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, I would say the same thing.
yeah,
Probably even worse, honestly.
yeah. But like this catharsis that he gets here, like them reconciling,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like this is like what I wanted for me and my dad at that
Mm-hmm.
point, but I never really got that.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, this was like my inception moment where like Killian Murphy, he's like dreaming that his dad is on his deathbed or whatever, and
Oh.
his dad is like, he's like open the safe, and then he opens the safe and it's like the picture of him, him as a kid with him with the pinwheel or whatever, and he like cries when he sees that
Oh.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like this is like, my inception moment of seeing Goofy and Max, sing this song and reconcile and love each other.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's a really good song. It's really sad. Um, Nobody else but you.
Mm.
Yeah, it's sad, but
Yeah. Oh, it really is.
yeah, it's a beautiful scene. And so after learning about Max's promise to Roxanne, Goofy decides to take him to the concert, right? The Powerline concert.
Yeah.
Um, and Max is like, "Oh, well, thanks, Dad." And then he's like, "Oh, like, watch out for that waterfall." And
Oh yeah.
Goofy's like, "Waterfall."
Well, at first he kind of brushes it off
Yeah,
like, "Oh, waterfall. Like I don't see one." But
yeah,
then he realizes there really is one, so he starts freaking out.
yeah, yeah. But then, as they're like falling off the waterfall, Max rescues Goofy using the perfect cast technique. Like he ends up doing that technique, and they hang
Yeah.
by the hook of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that
Yeah.
that saves their lives. And then we cut to L.A. and we could hear the Powerline music kick in. And is it supposed to be like the Great Western Forum or something like that?
I mean, probably.
Yeah, it kind of looks like that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, we hear the Powerline music bumping, and then
What is it called nowadays?
well, I mean, I don't know if they have like I think they tore that down or
So they
whatever.
tore that
Yeah,
down.
yeah, the Forum. Because I mean the Lakers play at Staples Center,
Mm-hmm.
which is actually it's this crypto.com arena now. I know.
Ridiculous name, if you ask me.
Yeah,
But
I know.
whatever.
Stupid. Um, so Max and Goofy arrive at the concert, and they sneak on to the stage and they have to, fool people backstage and climb the catwalk and shit like that, and
Mm.
and they end up stumbling on stage, and Powerline's like, oh, who the hell are you guys, or whatever, but then they just start dancing, so he's like, all right, he just kind of
Yeah,
rolls with it, right?
it's like a bit of going back and forth between, Goofy and Max being at the Powerline concert, but then back home you can see that all his friends are at Stacy's house watching the concert
Yeah,
live on pay-per-view.
yeah.
So
Roxanne is there. And when Goofy like winds up on stage, Max is like, Dad, do the perfect cast. And he's like, okay. And he starts doing that perfect cast, and it like so happens to mirror his dancing,
yeah.
of Powerline's moves. And the documentary that they did, you can see that they like kind of rotoscoped it. Like they took video of real dudes dancing, and then they animated it
Yeah.
based on that. It's pretty cool. And that was like, now it makes sense. Not because it was like, wow, this dancing is really fluid. You know what I'm saying? Like how they do
Yeah.
that. But yeah, now it makes really real sense looking back. Um, yeah, and so Roxanne does see, you know, Max and Goofy dancing with Powerline, so he does end up fulfilling that, wish and that dream that he said to her, and she can see that he wasn't bullshitting about it. But Max and Goofy return home in their barely functioning car. It's like you can hear it like you know.
Yeah, after it had already been in the water and everything.
Yeah,
So
I'm surprised it even still ran. Um, and Max goes to Roxanne's house and he tells her the truth, right?
yeah, he tells her because when she first, sees him and she tells him all excited, like, "Oh, I saw you on TV. Like that was great. That was
Yeah,
awesome." But then he actually admitted to her, like, "Oh yeah, even though I ended up being there,
yeah.
he said I actually wasn't supposed to be. He said I. He said,
He said, "Oh, my dad doesn't know Powerline."
yeah. He said like I just told you so that you wouldn't think that I wasn't interested in you." But
Yeah,
he said, but I really wanted to make it come true.
yeah.
That she was, I think she was really impressed that he was willing to do something that big for her.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Because she admits that she always liked him, and they decided to go out, right?
yeah.
And
Despite her dad being jealous.
yeah, the big guy, right?
Yeah, the big dog.
Yeah, yeah,
But you
exactly.
don't ever hear him talk, which I
Right.
find very weird.
He just always grunts, right? He's
Yeah, like
like,
he just grunts or growls.
yeah, yeah. And then, it's like a happy ending, and then all of a sudden we hear the car explode, and Goofy is ejected into the porch roof of Roxanne's house, and Max proudly introduces his father to his new girlfriend. And he does that Goofy scream, right? That whatever.
Yeah, he does.
And it ends on that note. And yeah, it was a really great, funny movie that I would always watch when I was a kid, when I was in sixth, seventh grade. You know, um, and yeah, watching that documentary was kind of interesting because there was some footage of them recording their audio, and
Yeah.
there was a thing where Jason Marsden, not to be confused with James Marsden.
Okay.
um,
Well, you're saying Jason, so we can assume that he's a different person.
yeah, I know, but their names sound similar. So yeah, because Jason Marsden plays Max,
Yeah.
and there
Well,
was a thing.
voices.
Yeah, voices Max, and Kelly Martin voices Roxanne. And if you watch the documentary, there's a thing where they're acting together, they're doing the voices together,
Mhm.
and there's like a thing where they're like supposed to kiss,
Mhm.
but the director's like, oh, like why don't you guys kiss for real or whatever, and they're like, okay, and so like they like kiss while they, do the voices and stuff like that. and
Mm-hmm.
and obviously if it was a movie, you would really kiss, you know what I'm saying? But if it was a live action movie, but this is voices, and they still had to kiss each other, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
which I find very weird.
Yeah, I don't know if they would have them do that nowadays.
Mm.
That's kind of bizarre.
I
um
agree.
Yeah, and I mean, when I think about it, like when I see a lot of like Mexican movies or whatever, or Mexican shows or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like oftentimes you don't even see people kiss. Like if there's like a couple or something in the show or whatever, like at most you might see them like hug or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like oftentimes you don't even see them kiss because it's like,
It just depends what kind of show it is too.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, like I feel like nowadays people are trying to avoid a lot of like intimacy, contact and stuff like that, unless it's absolutely required, you know what I'm saying, for the story,
Yeah.
to sell the relationship or whatever. Um, and I remember that chick, Kelly Martin, I remember because in the early 90s, she was on this show that I liked called Life Goes On.
Mm-hmm.
So it was on ABC, and she played the sister of this kid. He had Down syndrome. I remember his name was Corky on the
Oh.
show, and it was like trying to show that this is just a normal family, but he has Down syndrome, and it was like how his family kind of goes on like with that. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
they persevere even though he has this disability. Um, and I really liked that show as a kid, and I remember she played his sister.
Hmm.
And then later on, I think she was on ER or something like that. Um,
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah. But yeah, when we saw this movie as kids, it was just like something that we loved at the time, and I don't think we expected so many people to love it too.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's had a long shelf life, and I'm glad that it's gotten some success over time. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm glad to some degree.
Yeah, I know you like to keep things all to yourself.
Yeah, well, I am a gatekeeper. I'm just going to say it because I mean, this will sound really weird as to why I'm a gatekeeper. When I was younger, I got made fun of my overall taste, like whatever I like, music, clothes, movies,
Yeah.
whatever. So it's like a lot of the oh, okay. So up to the point where I'm just going to say it. In fourth grade, I got beat up by some of my classmates because I had Sailor Moon sneakers.
Hmm.
It was that bad. But
Yeah.
now everyone wants to go to Comic Con. How did that happen?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the world just shifted. You know what I'm saying? Like the world just twisted around. And now the cool kids do nerdy shit. You know what I'm saying? Um.
Yeah. So
So
that's why I'm a gatekeeper,
yeah.
among a few other things, which I don't want to take up too much time explaining them.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, I understand where you're coming from. Because I used to love X-Men as a kid. I used to love, well, I used to love Sailor Moon too. And
Mm-hmm.
I used to love Spider-Man and Ninja Turtles and, you know, video games, Sonic and stuff like that, Street Fighter, I loved all that stuff. And, after a certain point, a lot of kids grew up from that. They're kind of like, okay, I'm a teenager now. I'm not into this shit like that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Um, so if you were still like into that stuff after a while, you were considered pretty nerdy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But now it's like you can keep that stuff your whole life now. You know what I'm saying? There's 30, 40-year olds who are collecting Pokemon cards. You know what I'm saying? Who shall remain nameless.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like not considered a nerdy thing anymore. You know what I'm saying? Whereas before you would be ridiculed and
Yeah.
possibly killed.
Wow,
I mean,
that's taking it to the extreme.
I understand, that it's like there's all these Johnny come latelys now, it seems like, who love this film, and it's like, were you there since day one? Were you a day one Goofy movie head? You know? Um, the score for the film was done by Carter Burwell, who this is his second time, I think, on Briterion Bollection, because he also did one of our favorite films,
Mm-hmm.
Kids Are All Right.
That's true.
So, and he's done a lot of good shit, honestly. When you look over his filmography, he's done quite a lot of good scores. He did Where the Wild Things Are. He
Mm.
did In Bruges.
Yeah.
And those are just some of his obscure-ish movies. He's done a lot of bigger films than that. Um, is there anything else you wanted to say about Goofy movie, Aileen?
Well, I just want to say that even though it's it's a movie that over time it has gathered a lot of fans, like later on, really. I mean, it's a movie that I still really like and appreciate, but it also leaves me thinking about the relationships that we could have, like with our own friends and family, and it makes me think of what actually could have happened with them as adults, as far as Max and PJ, and their relationships with their dads. I do see that Max's relationship with Goofy got better as Max got older. And you can actually see it in Twice Upon a Christmas if you ever watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like, well, that Mickey's Twice Upon a Christmas, should I correct
Right.
myself?
Yeah.
Yes,
Because they.
because, spoiler, at that point, Max is no longer with Roxanne because he meets another girl, and and as he's dating her, he introduces her to Goofy, and that's how you can see that they're still in touch, and they still have a good relationship.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't really know or if they had done anything on Pete and PJ ever since. But
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling that PJ over time realized that Pete was abusive to him, so he probably went no contact. And that partly that's me being optimistic, but another part of me, I have a feeling that PJ is smarter than that, and he over time realized it.
Yeah. I think he just didn't want to spend the rest of his life getting his ass kicked by his dad. You know what I'm saying? Um,
Yeah.
not necessarily literally, but figuratively. Um,
Yeah.
and then in 2000, didn't they do Extremely Goofy Movie?
Oh, yes, they did, which is the sequel to it.
Right. So I mean, it seemed like the original Goofy movie, did well enough at the time to warrant a sequel. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like I guess it was already getting some like cult buzz at the time. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like,
Mm-hmm.
why would they do a random sequel if it was such a bomb? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think there was some cult buzz, but I think because Extremely Goofy Movie did even worse, and didn't really get the acclaim and buzz from people, it almost kind of killed the franchise for a while. You know what I'm saying?
Kind of.
Yeah, because I don't think you'll hear a lot of retrospectives on an Extremely Goofy movie, after a while. I don't think it'll get the love that the original film gets,
Mm-hmm.
even though, I mean, maybe I need to see it again. I thought it was okay, not as good as the original.
Yeah, I mean, I still thought it was pretty entertaining, but
Yeah,
it doesn't come close to
no,
the first one.
no. It's still worthwhile if you're a Goofy fan, like we are.
Yeah.
I like Goofy. I like seeing him anytime we get a chance. But it's not as good as the original, even though it has some alright songs. I like the disco song that it had in it,
Yeah.
and that closes the movie. That it's alright, and it's fine. Oh, we're gonna get right back to where we started from. I thought it was funny that they chose that song. I
Yeah.
wasn't expecting that at all. I thought they might go more R&B. You know, it would have been nice if they got like Aaliyah for the sequel or something like that. You know,
Hmm.
that would have been cool. Um, Timbaland production.
I don't know about that.
um, anything else on Goofy movie?
Well, one other thing is that I think, as corny as they can be, I think we need more deaths to be like Goofy, and way less like Pete. Like,
Yeah, for
please be
sure.
way less like Pete.
More
Just
Goofies, less Pete's.
yes.
Um, okay, that was a Goofy movie. Thank you for listening out there. Thank you, Aileen, for your insight on this film.
Yeah, well, I felt like I had to be a part of this one.
Yeah, exactly. Catch us next time on Briterion Bollection. Peace out. Bye.
Bye.